Hello and welcome to my review of the Space Marines Primaris Astraeus Super Heavy tank from Forge World. This super heavy tank will set you back a whopping £231. It's a huge amount of money for a tank. However, to soften the blow a little bit, Forge World also make other super heavy tanks such as the Legion Fellblade, which would set you back £189. So it's £42 more than a Fellblade. And we will be doing a size comparison with a couple of super heavies later on in the video, so stay tuned for those. Firstly, what I would like to do is just take a closer look at the model, look at all the things that I've done to it. If you are a member of the channel, I did do a couple of videos where I was building this Astraeus, so please do check those out if you can. So the first thing to note is that it is a whopper of a vehicle. It's huge. I mean, this super heavy tank is a very, very big vehicle. When I first saw it, I thought, yeah, okay, maybe it can transport some troops. Maybe there's a hatch, a doorway, something like that. But no, there's nothing of the sort. These are just big supports for the repulsor plates. It's part of the reason why this tank is so fast and maneuverable. It's heavy for a flying tank of this size. You're going to need these big areas and these big turbojet engines at the rear. It's also packing these void shields, which I have magnetized. So yeah, the tank is so big that it has void shields, something that not many super heavy tanks have. The only one I can think of is the Mastodon that has a couple of void shields, but on this vehicle they are very big. So the two void shields are magnetized. Also the sponsor weapons are also magnetized. You can have these las rippers either side, or you can pop in some plasma eradicators, the same weapons that are on the Redemptor Dreadnought. Likewise on the front, it also has a little turret there, which can typically have a twin las cannon, or you can pull these out and have heavy bolters. So it really is up to you which way you want to kit this vehicle out. Whether you want to go for the anti-infantry and have the heavy bolters and the plasma eradicators, or you can go full anti-armor, heavy penetration with the las rippers and the twin link las cannons. The thing that you can't necessarily change, well at least not now for a while until they make a different turret, is its main gun, which is the twin macro accelerator cannon. I have magnetized this. If we just pop that out, you don't need to magnetize it, but it just makes the oscillation go a little bit slower and tighter. It also has an iron hail heavy stubber right there. So in total, this super heavy tank is packing 5 weapons. That's quite a decent number of weapons. Let's have a look at the rest of the detail for this vehicle. So if I take it off of its base, I will be gluing it onto its base at some point, but once I've fully painted it. The magnets should be strong enough to keep everything connected, but if we look at the base, of the super heavy tank, there's still an awful lot of detail. So many repulsor plates, it's unbelievable. It's got 7 on one side, 7 on the other. That's 14, plus the 6, that's 20, plus the 3, it's 23, plus those 2, it's 25 repulsor plates in total. There's a lot of repulsor plates, but luckily for the modeler, it's not as taxing to clean these up as it is for a normal repulsor or impulsor for that matter. So there you go, that is the Astraeus super heavy tank. Let's crack on with some size comparisons then. So the first size comparison you can expect me to draw upon is of the Primaris Repulsor Executioner. This is the size of it next to one of these. Just imagine it on its base. Yeah, completely dwarfs one of these. Remember, this tank is £60. So in the grand scheme of things, you can get 4 of these tanks for the same price as the Astraeus. Up to you which you think is kind of more intimidating on the battlefield, but I'd go for the Astraeus any day. As great as the laser destroyer cannon is, there's just something about a flying super heavy tank with void shields. It's actually the first time, to my knowledge, that Games Workshop have brought out any kind of super heavy flying tank for the Imperium at least. We do get some super heavy tanks for Eldar, the Scorpion and the Cobra. If you're interested in those, I'd also check them out on Forge World's web store. But for now, this is what we've got. And would you expect anything less for Primaris, for Forge World to make a kit? I would have expected to make a super heavy flying tank for them. Okay, before we do some size comparisons with the juicy super heavy tanks, let's just take a gander at the kind of smaller tanks, I guess. So here we have one of my Sakarans. It's the Venator with this neutron laser. As you can see, the Sakaran is probably small to medium tank. It's a very fast tank, but yeah, that's where it stands next to the Astraeus. Then we have the legendary Land Raider. I'll just move this across, get an idea of how big a Land Raider next to the Astraeus. So there it is. Hopefully you can see that. It probably just comes up to about there on the Astraeus, and obviously the Astraeus is raised and is a much bigger, much taller vehicle, much more imposing than normal Land Raider. Even if you had 3 Land Raiders surrounding it, it'd still be a massive centerpiece. I mean, if you want one super heavy vehicle, if you want one centerpiece for your Primaris, other than the Overlord Flyer, which I hope that they're working on, this is it right now. If you want one standout mini, it is this Astraeus. And speaking of which, let's unwrap all of the other super heavies that I have in my possession, and we'll start off with the Typhon, this ridiculous Land Raider chassis tank. It's a beast. It's very heavy, very chunky. The tracks probably go up to almost the top of the hull of the Astraeus. It's a thick boy. Lengthwise, it's again a little bit longer than the standard Land Raider. It's a bigger Land Raider, absolutely huge. Got this ridiculous Typhon siege cannon as well. But yeah, compared to one of those super heavies, that's where it stands. And then, as a little bonus, we have a Mastodon, ladies and gentlemen. The amount of money this has taken me to do this size comparison is pretty much astronomical. The Typhon itself is about £116. The Mastodon is 326. So right there, just in those 3 models, you've got yourself £673 worth just on the screen. It's an absolute huge amount of money. So compared to the Mastodon, which is quite an interesting size comparison I'd like to make. Now technically the Astraeus is just a little bit longer with these repulsor plates. It's an interesting comparison because the Astraeus has a front mounted turret, it has 2 side sponsons and a main gun, whereas the Mastodon, being a troop transport, does have a melter siege array, but it has 4 side sponsons and it has some void shields, but they are little void shields, but they still count as 2 void shields nonetheless, regardless of their size. And instead of a big macro accelerator cannon, it's got these Sky Reaper battery, which is great against aircraft. So that's where it measures up. The Mastodon overall is taller. Even this top superstructure of the vehicle with its supports there is taller than the Astraeus. Width-wise though, the Astraeus does have it. It's just a little bit wider. Weight-wise though, I'd probably say the Astraeus is a little bit heavier. The Mastodon is quite heavy, but it doesn't have these huge chunks of resin either side. And the Mastodon is kind of hollow, but the beauty about the Mastodon, even though it's a bit more expensive, is that you can perform this magic trick and you can have a look at the inner workings of the Mastodon, which is pretty impressive, let's be honest. You can see these amazing front doors that I've hobby expertly pushed together and made sure that they open and close snugly. But yeah, you can see everything in there, including the ladders up, and it's just what the tactics usually is to drive one of these up to a wall, burn through the wall with the melter siege array, open the doors, and then another Mastodon drive in the back, and then you've got a long tunnel of Mastodons where they're very, very well protected from incoming fire. But anyway, I just thought I'd make that point, because this is what you get for the extra sort of £100 or so. You're getting a fully detailed interior and you know, inner workings of the vehicle, which is you know, always welcome. I've even magnetised the front there so that the doors fully seal. Fantastic. Anyway, I'm getting carried away with how amazing that Mastodon is. Love to get a second one. Nonetheless, the Astraeus compared to the Mastodon is a huge tank transport, and is taller despite the Astraeus being on the flying base. But I thought if you're on the fence about which one to get, this may well help you. They have completely different roles. This is a mainly troop transport, one of the best ways to transport your precious Space Marines around, and this vehicle is mainly going up against other super heavies and just obliterating huge chunks out of the enemy while retaining the protection of its void shields. And the final size comparison, which is why you're all probably still here, is with a Legion Fellblade. I do have two Baneblades, a Shadow Sword, and this Fellblade. I'm yet to get the other two super heavies for Space Marines, but I will one day. And this is where it stands up next to a Fellblade. Fellblade is still a massive vehicle. You can't go wrong with either of them. Let's be honest, this Fellblade just takes a Baneblade to another level. With the Fellblade accelerator cannon, its quad las cannons or laser destroyers, a demolisher cannon, twin heavy bolters in there, and you can also give it a pintle mounted heavy bolter. Although it has the same save as the Astraeus, it doesn't quite have the same number of wounds, and although it can't pump out as many shots as the twin macro accelerator cannon, the armor penetration shells, or the AE shells, do have a much better strength at strength 14 and a damage of 6. You're just missing out on that survivability that void shields protect the Astraeus with, and a slightly better movement speed. Let's not forget, this super heavy tank can still shift at movement speed of 10 inches compared to this flying tank, which only gives it an extra 2 inches movement speed. But I thought that would be an interesting size comparison nonetheless, if you're on the fence of which one to go for. Personally, I much prefer tracked vehicles. I'd rather go for anything with tracks over you know, repulsor plates or flying tanks anyway, just as a general rule of cool. I just think that these old school tanks, and as archaic as they look in terms of sloped armor and weak penetration points, I'd rather go for a tracked tank than a flying one. But that's just my own personal opinion. You may feel differently. You may have been brought up with Primaris and the repulsor plates, and you may think that this is just a repulsor plate dream for you, but there we go. That's my comparison there between the Astraeus and the Fellblade. Look where we've come in sort of 10,000 years, I guess. Let's take this opportunity to go through all of the rules for the Space Marine Primaris Astraeus Super Heavy Tank. Now, of course, it does not have any Horus Heresy rules. It only has the 40k rules, and you can find them in the most recent version of the Imperial Armour Compendium, which contains most of the rules for most of Forge World's models that they make. Now, it is a power points cost of a 35 with a points cost of 675 points. For the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, you're going to have to pay an extra 5 points, and if you want the twin las cannons at the front, you're going to have to pay an extra 30 points. So you're looking at 710 points. It is a Lord of War choice, as you'd come to expect, and because it's a vehicle, the number of wounds it's got remaining does affect its battlefield proficiency. So it starts off with 30 wounds, and if it has Over 16 wounds remaining, its movement speed is 12 inches, its weapon skill is 5+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 8, toughness 8, 6 attacks, leadership 9 and a save of 2+. If it's got between 8 and 15 wounds, its movement speed drops by half to 6 inches. Weapon skill remains the same at 5+, but ballistic skill drops to 4+. Strength and toughness are still 8. Attacks are now D6, leadership 9 and a save of 2+. And when it's got between 1 and 7 wounds, its movement speed drops all the way down to 3 inches. Its weapon skill is 5+, and its ballistic skill drops to 5+. Its strength and toughness remain 8, but the attacks it's got D3 and a leadership is 9 and a save of 2+. It's equipped with an Iron Hail heavy stubber, 2 Astraeus las rippers, storm bolter, twin heavy bolter, twin macro accelerator cannon. So these Astraeus las rippers then, which you can equip them either side for sponsons, they're a range of 36 inches, heavy 2, strength 9, AP -3 and a damage of D6. That's pretty nice. Typically las rippers are only 24-inch range, so it's great to have that extra 12 inches. And because they're 2 shots, you're going to be pumping out 4 strength 9, AP -3 shots with an effective range there of 48 inches. Those sponson weapons are definitely not to be ignored. The plasma eradicators, of which you can swap the las rippers out for, 2 firing profiles, the standard and supercharge. The standard is a 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 7, AP -4, damage 2, blast. And the supercharged version, which retains the range and the number of shots, but pumps up the strength to 8, armor penetration -4, and the damage is now 3. It's also blast. However, when you get an unmodified hit roll of a 1, then the bearer suffers 1 mortal wound after shooting with the weapon. It's up to you whether you think that's worth it. I would think it's worth it in a game because it's got 30 wounds. However, if you're getting 6s with them for the heavy D6, that's going to increase your chances of scoring mortal wounds on your own model. Let's say you get incredibly unlucky and you get 6s and then 1s, you could be knocking off almost half of the tank's wounds in one firing phase. That's how unstable these plasma weapons are, just for an extra 1 strength and 1 AP. Then we come to the twin macro accelerator cannon. One of the main reasons why you'll get this vehicle is its 72-inch range, heavy 12, strength 8, AP -2 and damage of 3. It's sort of like a crack missile, but better. You know, you've got your 12 shots, you've got your damage of 3, your AP could be a bit better, but the effective range there will be 84 inches. This thing can pump out a decent number of shots from a long range. The only downside is it's lost the ability to affect flyers even better. Before, you didn't have to remove the -1 for firing it at flyers. Now it doesn't have any special rules like that, which is very disappointing. War gear options: this model's twin heavy bolter can be replaced with 1 twin las cannon, the 2 Astraeus las rippers can be replaced with 2 plasma eradicators, and the model can be equipped with 1 Iron Hail heavy stubber, of which mine is equipped with. The abilities: Angels of Death and Hover Tank. Void shields: this model has 2 void shields. Each void shield has 3 shield points. When this model has any void shields, it has a 5+ invulnerable save against range attacks. This is very, very important because it's got the 2+ save and a 5+ invulnerable. Void shields work differently. This is probably one of the first times I've explained this, but I will go through it. This is the same for Titans, by the way. Each time a saving throw is failed for this model against a ranged attack, if it has any void shields, it does not suffer any damage. Instead, for each point of damage inflicted, one of its void shields loses 1 shield point. Once a void shield has lost a point, it must continue to lose shield points due to any further damage inflicted until it collapses. Each time an attack causes a void shield to be reduced to 0 shield points, that void shield collapses. This model loses that void shield and any excess damage inflicted by that attack is lost. Void shields can never be used to prevent mortal wounds. This is where the new void shield rule sucks. Each mortal wound inflicted on a model with void shields causes that model to lose 1 wound as normal. So no longer do void shields go against the mortal wounds. That's a really horrible pill to swallow. At the start of your command phase, if this model has a void shield that has fewer than 3 shield points remaining, that void shield is restored to 3 shield points. However, that's a plus. You know, it's got 2 void shields, so 6 shield points in total. If it's got 0 shield points or 2 or 1, then it instantly bumps it back up to 3, which is a bit more survivable. The final ability is Explodes. When this model is destroyed, roll 1d6 before removing it from play. On a 6 it explodes and each unit within 2d6 suffers d6 mortal wounds. Keywords: Imperium, Adeptus Astartes, Vehicle, Titanic, Fly, Machine Spirit, Repulsor Field, Void Shield, Astraeus. So there you go, that is my review of the Space Marines Primaris Astraeus Super Heavy Tank. It is a fantastic vehicle, an interesting model. I think it goes very well with all of the other sort of flying tanks, although I do prefer the tracked vehicles like the Fellblade and the Falchion and the Spartan and so on. What you're getting for more points there compared to the other big super heavy tanks is you're getting a slightly better movement speed, more wounds, and those 5+ invulnerable saves. Whether it can pump out more damage is a bone of contention. Just the Fellblade, for instance, can knock out shots at the same range, albeit a slightly less effective range, but still 72 inches nonetheless, at a better strength, better AP, and more damage. Furthermore, the Fellblade is equipped with quad las cannons, so you're getting 8 strength 9 AP -3 shots as opposed to the Astraeus's 4, so double the number of las cannon shots. You could argue that the Astraeus also has twin las cannons at the front of the vehicle, so in total you're getting 6 las cannon shots, but they are still at a lower range, and the Fellblade also has that demolisher cannon. Another thing to point out is they both have the same number of attacks and the same strength, but the Astraeus doesn't have anything to repel melee tryhards, unlike the repulsors, whereas the Fellblade has a specific weapon profile for its crushing tracks. Although it's still the same strength, the crushing tracks are an AP -2 and a damage of D3. So in close combat it would trump the Astraeus in the amount of damage that it can pump out. But that's just a very small side note. Whether you get your Fellblade or your Falchion into close combat is another matter entirely. When we compare it to the Falchion just blows it out of the water with the potential of 6 strength 14 AP -5 shots with that 120-inch range volcano cannon, and again it can also take those 8 las cannon shots with it. It's an interesting one because I like the tank. I just feel like it's putting all of its eggs in one basket. The accelerator autocannon isn't as good as it used to be because they've taken away the ability for it to cause more damage to flyers, and likewise they've changed the Void Shields rules, so now you can inflict mortal wounds on this vehicle, but it is a bit more survivable that you have to get past those shields, and those shields do regenerate automatically. What do you guys think of the Primaris Astraeus Super Heavy Tank? Do you think that they should also have a Primaris Troop Transport variant of this vehicle? That would be interesting, although I'm hoping that they've been busy working away on the super heavy Primaris Flyer, the Overlord, and I can't wait to see that if and when they produce it. Please put your thoughts and opinions of this super heavy tank down below. Fear not, there will be many Forge World reviews using the new updated rules coming to the channel. I thought it was about time to review this vehicle and have thus taken the opportunity. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor protects.